It's spooky season, and there's nothing scarier than week 8 lineup builds.
I suffer from a debilitating condition known as atropic chokitis.
Peter's one of the greatest depositors I've ever seen.
Trust the process. Let's go. Let's go.
I got auto matched with Levitan. This is bullshit.
If I just go the other way in that 66, I win all the money. All the money.
If I had 150 lineups, I'd win too.
Process over results.
Illuminati make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust out AP, cold spot bullets in your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
GM. How are we doing? Good morning, Paul. Good morning, Willis. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, everyone. Joshua says, chances Pete plays Cooper Cup this week in single entry. I have one Cooper Cup team so far. I've built 4 to 5 teams. I hate them all. I am playing one Cooper Cup team. I am not going to eat the shit on Cooper Cup every single week. I have to hedge myself a little bit on Cooper Cup. How are we doing? Peter Jennings in the chat. CSU Ram 88. Peter, what was the bet with Ashley that you guys thought I was going to dress up as for Halloween? I did not dress up. I dressed up as a GPP bro last night who was poring over his spreadsheets like a true virgin who didn't go outside for Halloween. But Peter, let me know what the bet was. I was trying to help Ashley take $1,000 off you, but apparently I didn't oblige. How you just coming in hot here? How are Lindsay and David Johnson projecting for you? They are not finding their way into my DFS lineups, but they have sure found their way into my season-long lineups. So that's where I'm at. I don't think you have to get that gross today with those guys for DFS. There's some cheap plays I like. I like Zach Moss down there, despite Blender laughing at me the other day about that play. I think he looks good. I even think Melvin Gordon looks decent down there. I like Eli Mitchell at 5,400. So I don't think you have to mess with the David Johnson and Lindsay stuff. I guess if you are playing like a Stafford double and you want to bring it back with David Johnson, I think that's fine, but probably a little too thin. Let's see here. Pete, similar to Cooper Cup, I have one big dog lineup. This slate is just really, really hard to fit in those top end guys. It's the usual dynamic we have where there's not a ton of salary relief, and it's really, really hard, especially with all the values in the mid tier. We have all those solid, wide receivers in the like 6'5" to 7'4" range. We have all the value wide receivers in the 5 to 5'5" range. And so it's just getting funneled to building more balanced rosters. The one way I unlocked Big Dog was talking myself into a mini correlation with Mo Alley Cox on the other side. Mo Alley Cox 3,200, save some money there, but it's hard. It's hard to get to Big Dog. It's hard to get to Kamara. It's hard to get to Cooper Cup, but obviously we want exposure to these guys today. So yeah, that's partly why this build has been very frustrating to me. And I'm trying to be cognizant of some other factors going on. I've started to realize after listening to some content, talking to people, that this week's version of the Tua double stack last week, that got incredibly steamed throughout the week. It felt sneaky when you were building on early in the week. And then we flip over the cards last Sunday and, Tua's 20% owned in single entry. Waddle is 20% owned. Gesicki's 20% owned. To me, I'm a little worried that's what's happening with Sam Darnold right now. Seems like everyone is excited and touting these Sam Darnold double stacks. Leone has finally gaslit the DFS community into thinking Robbie Anderson is a justifiable play. He's cheap. He saves money. People like DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a tricky one for me with ownership. If it weren't for the Darnold double stack kind of steam, I would think that DJ Moore could potentially get squeezed on a slate like this just because there's so many other good plays around him. But I do feel like those Darnold double stacks with the Ridley bring back are going to be very popular. this week. And so I'm a little nervous about that. I did have Darnold stuff earlier, and I'm just worried that we're going to flip it over and it's going to be 20% owned. And it's like, I don't want to play Darnold in my stuff at that kind of ownership. So that's what I'm thinking about. I mean, quarterback has been very hard for me to find stuff I like. I mean, I like a lot of the chalk stuff. I mean, both Allen and Hurts look good to me. I've messed around with Brady and Justin Herbert stuff. The only kind of gross quarterback lineup I've attempted to build is a Teddy Bridgewater, because so many of those Broncos are projecting well for me. And I think with Noah Fant, with Jerry Jeudy, Sutton looks fine. Melvin Gordon, like I said, looks fine. So that's kind of my gross stack there that I'm looking at, just with worrying so much about the Darnold ownership. Peter says, Ashley thought you were going to be an island boy. I mean, that would have been cool. I'm an island boy. I'm a DFS boy. No, I did not do that. I feel like that was the chalk costume. Although based on my Twitter feed, it seems like everyone was dressing up as I Think You Should Leave characters. I saw Mina Kimes' outfit was absolutely incredible. But yeah, I was worried that Island Boys would have been the chalk thing. But I think the funniest thing about this, Peter, is just this image that Ashley has of me. The fact that Ashley thinks that I'm someone that would dress up like an island boy and go to parties. I need to rehab my image online if that's how Ashley is viewing me. Let's see here. Christopher Riley has a 9v9 in cash. Can you help? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about cash, man. If you just go the other direction in that 9v9, you win all of your head-to-heads here. Does Chubb still look as good as he has all week? So Chubb is a tricky one. I was talking about this in the Discord last night in the Run the Sims channel with Corey. And I will say, early on in the week, he was not looking good for me. I was using Leone's ceiling projections, and Leone had a pretty poor projection on Nick Chubb. He told me, though, he adjusted it this morning, and now Nick Chubb looks decent. Nick Chubb looks pretty decent. He's also showing up in the Sims a good amount relative to his ownership. So to me, it was like such a blind spot because like his points per dollar on his ceiling projection was atrocious. It was lower than basically any other running back on the slate. Now that it's adjusted, it looks fine. His ceiling is now up there more in the James Robinson, Najee Harris, Leonard Fournette range, and he's going to carry far less ownership than those guys. So I have not in my 4 to 5 lineups found a way to get to Nick Chubb, but I think that is a mistake. And just as I talk it out now, as I see Leone's updated projection, as I see how he's popping in the Sims, I think I need to rectify that and get at least one Chubb share. Am I playing Gainwell? I'm not playing Gainwell. I like Zach Moss and Melvin Gordon and Eli Mitchell, I think a little bit more than him, just purely from an ownership perspective. You know, those 3 other guys I mentioned, I think are all going to be sub 10%. Gainwell is fairly popular at 12%. He's not projecting well in the Sims. I think there's just a lot of stuff that can go wrong for Gainwell, especially if Jordan Howard's active. He doesn't have basically any goal line equity, I don't think, with both Howard and Scott playing. And then if they're up as well on the Lions, I just don't know how much. I think he's going to have a fine role, but I just don't know if he's even the biggest beneficiary of Miles Sanders being out. I'm worried about those carries shifting to Scott and Howard more. So I think Gainwell's a fine play. And I think there's other slates where I would be more excited to use him. But just considering the ownership, considering the other options in that range, I also really like, Devonta Smith. I prefer playing the Eagles through the passing game. So I'm not on Gainwell, but I don't hate it. Let's see here. I'm scrolling, trying to catch up on the chat. You guys are, Ashley thought you and Jack were together. No, me and Jack dressing up as the Island Boys seems like a good way for us to somehow get ourselves canceled. Let's see here. Corey, yeah, sorry, I'm catching up on the chat. I'm coming around on Chubb. I think I want to get a Chubb in my lineup. Maybe I do have a Joe Mixon lineup. Maybe I just pivot the Joe Mixon to a Nick Chubb. That's probably a pretty clean switch there. You save $100, you sacrifice, looks like 4 ceiling points, but you make up, about 8 points, 8 percentage points in ownership. So that seems like a good trade-off to me. That's the thing that's been hard just building this morning, is looking at the trade-offs in projected points relative to ownership. Like, based on my ceiling projections, looking at kind of optimals, ceiling projections around 222 ceiling points, 140 ownership, cumulative percentage points. And a lot of my lineups I'm building are sacrificing 20 plus ceiling percentage points. And it's partly because Higgins and Pittman are projecting so well as cheap wide receivers. They both have a really nice ceiling. I don't think I can eat the Pittman chalk. I don't mind the Higgins chalk quite as much. I think it's a really good spot for him. But man, playing these wide receivers who are going to be 20 plus percentage owned down in that 5K range just seems bad to me. And that's why I'm ending up with a lot of Jerry Jeudy. You guys saw the cover boy on the thumbnail. I like him a lot. I'm forcing myself to play a little Jarvis Landry as well. Just trying to think of who are the guys that could potentially, match or come close to the Pittman Higgins stuff if those guys fail. Devontae Smith is another guy I like a lot in that range. But man, it is tough because so much of the field is going to be playing Higgins and Pittman, and they project really well. Thoughts on the Atlanta double? I assume you mean a Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts. I'm preferring to play that game almost as minis. I like a DJ Moore and Kyle Pitts mini, although that's pretty pricey. I think the Falcons double is fine, but you're just not getting any rushing equity from Matt Ryan. And I'd almost rather just play, Pitts as a one-off than going with Ryan if that game is going to end up being so popular. And you also look at some of the other quarterbacks down there. Trevor Lawrence projects similarly. I know no one wants to play Trevor Lawrence. Carson Wentz actually projects pretty well down there too. So I don't know. And like I said, I like Teddy Bridgewater as well. So I haven't found myself on Matt Ryan. I do think it's a way to just play that game a little bit more unique than the field if everyone's playing it through the Darnold double angle. So I don't mind that, but it's not my favorite thing. Coney Dog, Mixon's ownership looks higher than I thought. Yeah, he's a tricky one. I think he's getting steamed a little bit, and that's why I'm struggling with the Bengals, because I do think most rosters are going to want to have one of Joe Mixon or T. Higgins on it, and it seems like we're headed toward another week where Jamar Chase gets squeezed. And that's the kind of thing I'm wrestling with. I'm seeing Jamar Chase at 12% ownership right now. But man, if Jamar Chase comes in again under 10% because of this Mixon and T. Higgins love, he's such a good play here. Josh, Pete, you doing any Bill stacks without Diggs going the other 2 wide receivers? So I did build one Josh Allen double, and I have Diggs in it. I don't have the stones to do the Diggs double, the Josh Allen double without Diggs. I know earlier this year, was it Dink? Yeah, when we had Dink on the tilt space and he had that really nice lineup that had Sanders and Beasley without Diggs. Diggs just looks really good to me. I don't think his ownership's going to get out of hand at 8,100. Everyone loves to come down and, play AJ Brown, play Chris Godwin, play Calvin Ridley, or they're just paying up for Cooper Kupp. So I think Stephon Diggs' ownership is actually going to stay in check. And neither those secondary guys are just popping a ton for me. And so I don't feel confident enough to play Sanders and Beasley. So yeah, I'm rolling with Diggs. I do really feel like we are headed toward a Diggs explosion game, and I don't want to miss it. Any love for Bolden this week if Ramondre is out again? Not really. I think that's too thin. I think it's too thin. I think you can, if you want to make a play like that, play Michael Carter, at 4,900, who you don't need someone to be inactive. He's going to catch 5 or 6 balls in a negative game script. I don't really want to bet on a specific game script for the Patriots. And then even then, I think your ceiling is pretty capped with a Bolden play. I think I'd even rather play like a JD McKissick over Bolden if that's the kind of thing you are trying to do there. Let's see here. God, the chat is firing today. I can't keep up with the chat. Oh, Silas is going with a T-Law Arnold Agnew double. This was what was kind of messing with me because Lawrence was projecting pretty well, and Agnew honestly doesn't look bad either. And as a LaVisca Chenault truther, it just absolutely rips me apart to say that sentence. The thing is I don't know. The Darnold stuff is like, he hasn't gotten steamed to like mega chalk punt tight end territory like we've seen earlier this year with guys like Ricky Seals-Jones, and they end up, 35% owned. But even semi-chalky Dan Arnold doesn't seem great to me. I'm still seeing him as the most popular tight end on the slate along with Dallas Goedert. And I just don't want to play a chalky Dan Arnold. And I know all the cash game bros are jamming Dan Arnold. The guys on Establish the Run, Establish the Show were arguing, Dan Arnold versus who was it? Pat Philhelmuth. But I think if I was going with the T-Law double, I think you throw Marvin Jones in there. I think you go Agnew and Marvin Jones if you're going with that double. But I get it's really nice to save money at tight end. I get it. But in general, I just don't like playing those chalk tight ends. He is not looking good in the Sims either, not showing up at near the clip he is getting in the Sims. Let's actually pull that up and we can see what we have there. Yeah, Paul mentions this Gronk situation, which is a little tricky. He was looking really good to me when I was looking at stuff last night. I think after not playing the past few weeks, similar to kind of the Judy situation, I think a lot of people aren't going to be rushing to jam him. Schefter reports overnight that he should be good to go. And that he's playing. He included him in his, his tweet of guys that were going to play. And then you get the Rappaport report that said he was going to be a true game time decision. So that obviously gives you a little pause. We can, litigate if we want to trust Rappaport reports. The nice thing about it is there's a few ways you can plan for it because it is the late swap situation. So you can leave 300 on the table and you can get up to Noah Fant, who I think is a really good play. So if you want to just save that 300, you just pivot Gronk to Fant if he's out or something with warmups, don't sound good. Or you can then, if he's out, you can go down to a Howard or Brait as well. And then you'd have money to upgrade elsewhere if you keep kind of your swaptions open there. So I don't mind going with the Gronk stuff, knowing that we have some outs there and some good pivots. Let's see here. Let me pull up the Sims here. Let me pull up the Sims. We will run the Sims. Analyzing playbook. Playbook processing. Okay. Here are our fresh batch of Sims, hot out of the oven. No surprise here at the top with Darrell Henderson, DeAndre Swift, Alvin Kamara. I swear to God, every single week, Cordero Patterson is popping in the swims. I swear to God, every single week, I don't play him. I swear to God, every single week, he shoves it down my throat. I mean, I don't know what to do with, sorry, I got my tabs all messed up here. I don't know what to do with Cordero Patterson. He's in that weird kind of dead zone purgatory ownership range at like 12 to 13%, where he's not super clean leverage on the Calvin Ridley chalk, and yet he looks like a solid play relative to this in the Sims. Of course, we see Diggs and Cup popping here. Jonathan Taylor looks good. Josh Allen really showing out. And that's the thing too, that's so hard to get away from the Josh Allen and the Jalen Hurts is, even though they're carrying a decent amount of ownership there, they're popping here in the Sims a decent amount. If we're trying to look for some contrarian plays, we talked about Chubb earlier. He's looking good here. DK Metcalf No one wants to play DK Metcalf. I mean, we're talking about, down here, these guys who are going to be sub 5% owned that have the, 20 plus point ceiling. I mean, there's only a couple of them. I think DK Metcalf's going to be sub 5. I think Terry McLaurin's going to be sub 5. I think Mike Williams is going to be sub 5. And of those guys, DK Metcalf is by far the cheapest. They're at 6,800. So I don't know if I have the stomach for it, but DK Metcalf definitely looks like a good play. Like seeing Devonta Smith show up there. Jarvis Landry is a guy I've been kind of forcing myself to consider, just because I was landing on so much Jerry Jeudy that I was like, whoa. Let's not, just shove all in on Jerry Jeudy. Let's think through this. And so I think Landry at a similar price point is decent. Also kind of getting that return from injury discount. Shift says playing a DK Metcalf, James Robinson mini. Yeah, that looks pretty solid to me. I think that looks pretty good. T-Tid Forever says, does Tyler Johnson get downgraded if Gronk plays? Most projection sets right now are assuming Gronk plays. So when you look at them, I mean, Tyler Johnson, it's, 3,100. He's got like a 10-point ceiling, 3% ownership. I did build one lineup where I did a Tom Brady triple for super small field stuff. I think I'll throw that in a contest that's sub 1,000. I think that stuff is fine. I know Cramming had a really good lineup last week. That was a Stafford triple. And I do think those lineups can get there on slates like this in super small field stuff. And again, like I said, it's just so hard to find salary relief that tossing in Tyler Johnson and just hoping he gets a touchdown and, the the Patriots score. God, why can't I talk? The Buccaneers score, 4 or 5 TDs. I think that's fine. It's so hard. Like Van Jefferson looks like probably the best, value wide receiver play, but he's going to be popular. He's going to be, 11, 12% owned. And I think even higher in small field. He's not showing up in the Sims hardly at all. Amon-Ra St. Brown looks okay to me. And because I'm messing with so many Hurts stacks, I do like Amon-Ra St. Brown. It seems gross, but Khalif Raymond is actually projecting fairly decently. He was in the air yards by low model. The problem with Khalif Raymond is he costs 5,300. And if you're looking for a cheap bring back, I mean, going down to Amon-Ra St. Brown saves you some money. But you can tell how gross this slate is. Like I'm having to talk myself into Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's gross out there. Wallace says, thinking about playing an Allen triple, would you have a Dolphins bring back with that? So yeah, this has been the hot topic of conversation lately in the DFS world, when to bring it back, when not to bring it back. And, I was looking at some of this stuff because I do think this Dolphins bring back is kind of like the perfect illustration of, thinking through how much does correlation matter. So I was looking at this where, what if you run an Allen double or sure, maybe it's a triple. Let's say it's the 3 wide receivers. Let's say you put in Gabriel Davis and then you're sitting there and you're wondering, okay, do I play Mike Gesicki for 5,000 or do I play Noah Fant for 4,900? I'm seeing Noah Fant has about 2 to 3 percentage points better ceiling projection than Mike Gesicki. And I'm seeing their ownership about the same. Their price is about the same. So now we're in that exact territory. Is the correlation on the bring back worth the 2 to 3 ceiling projection points that you're sacrificing by not playing Noah Fant when everything else is equal? And I don't know. I really don't know. My gut this week is like, I'd rather play Noah Fant. That's just where I'm leaning. And I guess my only takeaway is you don't have to force it. You don't have to force that. None of the Dolphins guys are projecting very well as points per dollar plays. With Devontae Parker this week, Devontae Parker, Waddle, Gesicki all look overpriced relative to their projection. So that I'm not forcing it, but none of them are going to be super popular either. So that's why I'm really struggling with that right now in my Josh Allen double stack. I do not have a Miami Dolphin on the bring back. James says Gaskin is the bring back. I don't hate it. I think he will catch a few balls if my guy Patrick Laird isn't in there on passing down, stealing from him with Malcolm Brown on IR. But Yeah, he just doesn't project very well. He's at 5,600, and for me, um, it seems a little thin. You're rooting for a negative game script, and then you're just praying. He's going to get the 5 to 6 catches or whatever, but then you're just praying he gets in the end zone, which I guess you could say about a lot of guys. But playing the Dolphins running back, bring back isn't my preferred way to handle that, but I could see it getting there. Do we have to double stack Allen? I don't think you do. I think you could do a single. Although if I did a single, I think I would want it to be Diggs. I don't think you would single Josh Allen with like just one of Beasley or Sanders. That doesn't seem right to me. Yeah, but if I did do a single, I think you just hope that we get one of those classic 2020 Diggs Allen games where they're just dialed in and Diggs goes nuclear. I could definitely see that working out here. Let's just check the optimal lineups over here as well and just make sure if there's anything else that we are missing. I always kind of like looking at these optimal lineups, one, to just see kind of the texture of these lineups, if any surprising names are showing up that might not be chalk, I think is always a helpful exercise. One thing I know I've been mentioning on the shows is really comparing my GPP lineups and the projected ceiling and ownership to those optimals to make sure I'm not sacrificing too much. I would say right here at the top, a couple interesting names showing up. Well, first of all, look at that top lineup right there, jamming $3. So it's nice to get some confirmation there on the Tom Brady triples that Godwin, Johnson, and Gronk are all projecting well. I don't really feel like eating the Godwin chalk. I think I will build with Mike Evans in those. And then if I'm just absolutely smashing early, maybe I go down from Evans to Godwin and upgrade elsewhere. But that's interesting. I think it's also interesting to see a ton of Chuba Hubbard. I think he's a guy that could get really, his ownership could crater just with how much people are wanting to play the Panthers through the passing game. So that is kind of interesting to me, seeing Chuba there. Also very interesting seeing so much Rob Gronkowski here. A ton of Gronkowski showing up in these top lineups. He's projecting very well. So again, going back to that conversation, with Gronk, with Fant, I like leaving myself some outs to play Gronk. This afternoon, it is hilarious to see my guy Laviska Shenault show up here. And also, like I mentioned, with that one gross stack I like. I mean, Teddy Bridgewater, we don't see much Sam Darnold showing up here. Teddy Bridgewater projecting really well. And I like him as the kind of gross pump play QB this week. There's lots you can do with that game. You could bring it back with Gibson, with McLaurin, with Ricky Seals-Jones. RSJ's a little chalky for me. But the other benefit of also playing Bridgewater is the Washington D is going to be super chalky today. They look like a great play. I could see them in small field being 25, 30, 35% owned. So you get a little leverage there if you're playing Teddy Bridgewater stacks against the chalkiest defense on the slate. Let's see here. Willis is excited about the Gronk smash. Yeah, I'm getting pretty excited about it. Yeah, I mean, I actually don't mind that. Like, I'm not going to play any Washington defense today. I kind of have a hard and fast rule that I'm not going to play chalky defenses and I'm not going to play chalky punt tight ends. So the defenses that I've been looking at this week, I have some Falcons. I have some Jags at 2,400. I have some Seahawks at 2,800. I have some Browns at 3,000. Those are kind of the defenses I've been looking at, but I just don't want to eat the Washington defense. I think there's a lot that can go wrong there at 35% owned. Is the Joe crew rolling through? We will. Here they come. Here they come. Holka and I will be live for the Tilt Space tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern. Leone is going trick-or-treating. I have a feeling that Leone is going to find his way onto the stream somehow. I think he's going to get FOMO and he's going to miss it. And he's going to come and want to see how his lineups are doing. and then he will join us. But Hulk and I might also get some friends to join us on the Tilt Space. So we will be live at 6 p.m. That's over on the Establish the Run YouTube channel. This week, we are playing the $1,500 single entry. We are playing a lineup in the 777 on DraftKings. And then we're also going to build a FanDuel single entry team as well. So once we are done with this show, I will be hopping off to build those lineups with those guys. Let's check in on a couple other things here as we move through our Sunday morning ritual. I was building my Owners Club lineups earlier. This is, of course, the NFT meets DFS game that the Own the Moment guys put together. You can buy cards from a marketplace. All the packs are sold out now, so you just have to purchase from the marketplace if you want them. And it's a very simple but addicting format. I have now added a sheet in my spreadsheet to look at team projections based on the scoring system. So the way it works is you have one quarterback, one running back, one wide receiver, one tight end, but it's based by the entire position. So I have Colts running back in here, means I get every Jonathan Taylor point, every Nyheim Hines point, every Marlon Mack point, etc. And it actually changes the projections in an interesting way. So these are my main event entries. This lineup here is pretty close to the optimal lineup. I tried getting a little funky with defense just to make sure I wasn't duped, but going with a Bills stack here, Colts running back, Chiefs tight end, Seahawks D. Down here going with a Philly stack, Philly QB, Philly tight end, playing the Bengals running backs in that matchup against the Jets, playing the Panthers as a one-off wide receiver, and then Rams defense. And these are kind of the decisions I make where I think Rams defense is far more optimal if I'm putting it in this, but just trying to get the slightest diversification off of what I think will be more popular construction. So going with the more contrarian D in my chalkier skill position lineup. And then I'm rolling out a Chargers stack here, Tennessee running back, Tampa Bay tight end, and Denver defense. So feel good about these top three lineups. Side hustle using some cards that I have left over. I mean, obviously don't feel as great about this Dallas one now that Dak is looking pretty sketchy for tonight, but you know, it is what it is. Had some fun low ball ones. I mean, it is so crazy. And again, so you guys know how the scoring system works, the Thursday night points are already included and we know them. And so, you know, the Kyler Murray goes from projecting as one of the best quarterback plays to now being viable for low ball. So I was cycling through some of my Cardinals with low ball using their defense here. Lots of Jets, lots of Dolphins, lots of Bears, Texans tight end, Bills tight end. Sorry, Tommy Sweeney. I hope you brick today. Island of Misfit cards, similar concept, except this you're trying to score as many points as you can, but you can only use tight end or defense. So here's my tight end, Jags tight end exposure today. Is in the Island of Misfit cards, Bears D, Rams tight end, Washington D, Washington tight end, and Panthers D. So if you guys are interested or have questions about this, I've been having a lot of fun with it as they add the different game types to it. We have a channel in the Deposit Kingdom Discord where we talk a little strategy, also make trades, help each other complete stacks, all of that good stuff. Should we do an underdog draft? I actually was able to do a couple of these last night. I've been busy and forgetting to get in my battle royales, but I was able to sneak it in last night. And I always have fun building these. Also, Underdog has a new deposit bonus. If you guys have, for some reason, not signed up on Underdog yet, they will now match your first deposit up to $100. So you use promo code Pete, you put $100 in, and Underdog will hook you up with $100. So not too bad. I notice my buddy Rob Coakley snuck into this draft at the turn. Let's do this, Rob. Going to get rid of the quarterbacks at the start here. This is a really gross week for tight end. You know, Pitts, I do think separates a little bit from these guys in this format without having Waller, without having Kelsey. And then it's a pretty flat tier here. I think this Hawkinson, Fant, Goddard, Gesicki, Higbee. So it's been interesting to see where Pitts goes in these drafts, because he does feel like the only one that can kind of truly separate in a monster way. I'm sorry, Corey, for slandering Tommy Sweeney. Let's see here. Yeah, Willis stole AJ Brown from me last week, and I was justified to be so upset. AJ Brown, of course, went ham. Yeah, so Underdog, this draft is just for this week. They have these battle royale contests, and they feature all of the games on the Sunday slate. And it's a 6-person, 6-round draft. And you pick 1 quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 1 flex. And I am now on the clock, and we are going to take Cooper Kupp. It's always nice when someone takes the quarterback in the first few spots. I do think pretty clearly Henry and Kupp should be the first 2 picks in these. So it's one of those things where some people rely on these default rankings, which of course the quarterbacks are going to project more for more, but it's obviously a super flat tier there. So I do think in general, a mistake to take quarterback early and should be focusing on running back, wide receiver, and tight end when possible. Let's see if Pitts makes it back to me. Pitts at 2-4 could go either way. The losers again. Thoughts on Najee Harris? I mean, he's another one similar to Chubb. He's a little more expensive than Chubb at 7,500, but I think he's going to be sub 10%. I don't love that game environment, but it's hard to knock Najee Harris. He's going to play 100% of the snaps. He's going to catch 4 to 5 balls. He looks pretty good to me there. So I definitely don't mind that. All right. Pitts did go to Coakley, so I'm not going to do tight end. That means I'm down to running back and wide receiver. This running back tier still feels pretty flat to me. We'll do Jamar Chase. We will do Jamar Chase. Maybe I set up a Burrow. Burrow stack would probably be pretty contrarian in this tournament. The things I'm always trying to do in these is obviously correlate. Love getting a QB wide receiver stack. Love trying to get a secondary mini correlation from a game, and then kind of one off the board play. Whether basically by off the board, I mean outside of the top, 20 picks. We've been talking about Chubb and how no one's going to play him. And we already took Chase, so we're not going to take Mixon. I don't really want to mess with the Eckler stuff, even though I think he's fine. Let's do Nick Chubb. Get our exposure to Nick Chubb in half-point PPR Underdog. Hope he breaks off a couple big ones. I stole your stack. I'm sorry. I apologize. What if Deontay Harris is back at 3,800? Man, as a Gronk correlation. Yeah, I was trying to poke around and see if there's anyone on the Saints I could justify playing other than Kamara. I'm having a hard time with it. That seems like one of those situations where you don't force the correlation. I get it though at 3,800. We're all in this economy trying to save money. But none of those Saints guys really stood out for me. But who am I to complain about Deontay Harris when I'm talking myself into Amon-Ra St. Brown? Let's just play this super contrarian. Let's see. Cleveland versus Pitt. Yeah, we'll do a mini on this other side with Deontay Johnson. And then our quarterback options here, we'll be able to go Burrow. Shit, I might have to go. I'll do a naked. I could do a Hurts Goddard as well, potentially, depending on if either of those guys go. I don't mind that. Is it okay to play Sanders and Buffalo D in the same lineup? Yeah, I don't mind it. Man, I'm more jealous that you're finding a way to get up to a $3,300 defense because the Bills are expensive and they look like they'll be the second most popular defense on the slate after Washington. Bills, Bengals, Washington all look like they're going to be popular. Bills D haven't been on my radar. But as far as just in a vacuum, playing Sanders and Buffalo D, I don't mind it. I don't think that's bad. I mentioned in a vacuum here. Actually, let me make a pick. Let's see. Yeah, let's see if we can get this Hurts stack. I mentioned in a vacuum, I've been putting the audio up for my lineup review shows on Monday, my strategy shows on Friday, and these cram shows up on the podcast feed. It's in a vacuum feed. You can search that on iTunes and get the audio versions if that is what you prefer. Let's see here. So I really want Goddard, but I will happily settle for Fant. I would take. Is there anything else? Or I'll do Gronk. So we are good there. This actually reminds me: has the Deposit Kingdom rake free tournament on DraftKings filled? This morning when I looked, there's about 30 more spots. We have 5 more spots left, folks. The link is down below. The Deposit Kingdom. All right, we get the Goddard stack here. So this looks nice to me. Hurts to Goddard. We play Nick Chubb and Deontay Johnson, and then we play one-off Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp. Easy game. Easy game. The Deposit Kingdom League, DraftKings made it bigger to 470 people, and I have a feeling this is going to fill within the next minute. So if you want to get in, the link is down below. It's a rake-free $10 tournament. Super smooth payout structure, great vibes, great people, and I review the winning lineups on my lineup review show tomorrow morning. So if you want a shot at fame, at clout, at GPP prestige, you enter the Deposit Kingdom League, you win it, and then I talk about how much better your lineup was than mine the next day. Brian Schultz asking a question that no one has ever asked before. Win rake. The rake is too damn low. Up the rake. Up the rake. Wow. Thoughts on Ayuk? I have not thought about Ayuk at all. Partly because Debo looks like a good play to me. Debo looks like a really good play at 7,400. I think, he's right up there with Diggs and AJ Brown and Jamar Chase as far as ceiling. And I think of all these guys who are going to get squeezed, like AJ Brown's going to get played. Diggs is going to get played. Jamar Chase is going to get played a little bit. I think Deebo Samuel gets squeezed. I could easily see Deebo Samuel sub 10%. And I know that's not what you're asking, but Brandon Ayuk is not on my radar. I desperately want him to be a thing, but we have not seen anything that would indicate that he is going to be a thing anytime soon. So unfortunately, I can't give my stamp of approval on Brandon Ayuk. I also just don't love that game. It has a really poor over-under. What is that over-under at? I got to pull this up and look. It's at a 39 over-under. And I do think it's a Eli Mitchell game. It seems like Shanahan is getting so close to finally pulling the plug on Jimmy Garoppolo, but this just feels like one of those games where every other touch is going to Deebo Samuel and Eli Mitchell. So if it was a higher total, then I'd start to get more interested at some of the ancillary pieces. But no Brandon Ayuk for me. Yes, lots of love for DJ Moore on Carolina. I think he's a great play. I've just been wrestling with how popular I think he is going to be. I think if the Darnold stacks, I mentioned this earlier, weren't getting steamed and the doubles weren't so popular, that he would be more in the Debo range, like sub 10%, just because of all the other plays pulling ownership away in that range. But because the Darnold stacks are so popular, I think he is going to be closer to, 13 to 15% would be my guess. But I think he's a great play. And I definitely plan to have some DJ Moore in my lineups today. Oh no, Melissa. Woo, woo. The cops are coming for you. Melissa mentioned Ayuk and her best ball shares here on this DFS show. I mean, Melissa, I hope they offer you parole. I hope it's not too bad there in best ball prison, but Godspeed. All right, guys, I am going to wrap this up. Luckily this week, we don't have a ton of injury situations that I think we're really waiting on. The Gronk stuff is something I'll be paying attention to, but I think he's going to be fine. Otherwise it's a pretty clean slate as far as injury stuff. So who knows, maybe the slate will get flipped on its head Maybe we'll get kind of a Foster Moreau type salary saving thing opening up. That would be very nice. But as of now, things feel pretty settled. Dave G, one more question here. Did your pod with Blender make you rethink being contrarian versus making a high leverage pivot here or there? No, not necessarily. I feel like I think I'm generally, I don't know if those things are mutually exclusive is what I guess is what I'm saying. But I think what you're referring to is this idea of, going down the board and being contrarian everywhere versus, eating a decent amount of chalk and then making one or two bigger pivots. And I will say, just in general, it's so slate specific. This slate is, again, one of those where the pricing is so tight that you are having to eat some chalk. It's like I couldn't find the high ceiling quarterback, galaxy brain play that I like. So I'm going to be eating some Jalen Hurts chalk. And it's like, I like the Jonathan Taylor and AJ Brown mini. That's not sneaking past anyone. So I'm going to have to eat some of that chalk. I like the Josh Allen to Diggs. That's not going to be sneaky. So I'm going to eat some of it there. So this is definitely a slate where it's basically impossible to go down the board and be contrarian everywhere without just sacrificing an absurd amount of points. So yeah, Pete will be eating some chalk this week, but I'm just trying to pick my spots on the good chalk. I'm not going to be having Dan Arnold in my lineups. I'm not going to have Washington football team in my lineups. I'm not going to have Michael Pittman in my lineup. So that's just where I'm at right now with my lineup builds. I do check in the Deposit Kingdom Discord in the Run the Sims channel, and we can talk through any final decisions after inactives. If you guys would like to join us in there, we have lots of good lineup building discussions, specifically on Saturday evenings and Sunday before lock, as well as for the showdown slates. If you sub to Run the Sims and you get 10% off with promo code Pete, you get access to that Discord channel for free. Or if you're not ready to take the Run the Sims plunge, you can become a YouTube member. It's the Hand Bros, Hand Building and Opto Bros tier down below. That will also unlock it for you in Discord. So without further ado, I'm going to head out. Good luck today, guys. I will see you at 6 p.m. for the Tilt Space.